Hello, my name is Dr. Karen Balmer, and I'm a graduate of Bethel University's doctoral program in K-12 administration. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to my research today. The name of my dissertation was From Teacher Attrition to Teacher Retention, the Role of School Principals. Teaching is a noble profession. Most teachers enter the profession with great aspirations and enthusiasm, noble intentions, and an earnest desire to positively impact the lives of students. Yet, in the United States, teachers are leaving the field at an alarming rate, which has resulted in a teacher shortage crisis. This is not new. Documented shortages began in the 1980s and have persisted since then. Of particular concern is the attrition rate for early career teachers. Since 2011, the attrition rate for teachers in their first 5 years of teaching has stabilized at roughly 40%. The teacher shortage is symptomatic of underlying issues and a vicious cycle. Burnout leads to increased rates of attrition, which results in shortages, followed by the unfortunate impact on student outcomes. And then those negative student outcomes result in increased demands for teachers, which lead to burnout, attrition, shortages, and the vicious cycle continues. The purpose of my study was to explore how school principals can leverage their role to strengthen teachers' retention, and in particular, how they might interrupt the trend of teachers leaving the profession within the first 5 years. Here you can see my purpose visually, a hopeful remedy to our current vicious cycle. My study included 5 research questions. The first two questions related to teachers' perceptions of their principals' actions in their first year of teaching. Question 1 related to their perceptions about receiving supportive communication from their principal. Question 2 was about perceptions about receiving meaningful feedback in that first year beyond a formal evaluation system. The next 3 questions related to teachers' perceptions of their principal's actions in their current year of teaching. Question 3 was about perceptions about school administrators being supportive and encouraging. Question 4 related to their perceptions about school principals and enforcing school rules and supporting teachers in discipline. And 5 was about their perceptions of the principals having a vision and communicating that clearly. I used Maslach's burnout theory in this study as a theoretical framework to better understand the underlying problem of teacher burnout, which increases the risk of attrition. Maslach's burnout inventory for educators identified 3 specific areas that contribute to professional burnout: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and lack of personal accomplishment. So, how does burnout occur? My literature review explored 4 challenges contributing to teacher burnout. 1, increasingly complex needs that students bring to the classroom, from academic needs to also social, emotional, and behavioral needs. 2, accountability measures that are intended to ensure teaching quality, but that are often very public and high stakes for teachers. 3, declining public confidence and negative public discourse about teachers and public schools. And 4, low wages and stagnant wage growth relative to other college-educated professionals. If principals are to be part of the solution, the literature review then explored the current understanding of the role of principals. Regarding duties and responsibilities, there's not a singular and shared definition, but it is commonly agreed that the role of school principals is complex, demanding, and wide-ranging. As for professional standards, the National Policy Board for Educational Administration developed a strong set of standards in 2015, and these standards do capture much of the complexity of the principal role. Unfortunately, they are not required across all states, and as such, states have greatly varying approaches to preparing principals, and arguably great variability in the quality of that preparation for principals. My study was a non-experimental quantitative study using secondary data from the 2020-2021 National Teacher and Principal Survey conducted by the National Center for Education Statistics. The analysis was conducted by using NCES's data lab. Within the survey, I isolated licensed, full-time elementary school teachers in their first 5 years of teaching. I conducted 5 chi-square tests to determine whether there was a difference between 2 categorical variables for each research question. The independent variables were the 5 survey items that asked about teachers' perceptions about their principal's actions. 2 questions again asked about their first year of teaching, and 3 asked about their current year of teaching. The dependent variable was the teacher's reported intention to remain in teaching. I broke that survey question and the 8 responses into 3 categories. Category 1, those indicating likely long-term intentions to remain in teaching. Category 2, those indicating short-term intentions to remain in teaching. And category 3, those with unknown intentions about remaining in teaching. The results for all 5 of the analyses were statistically significant, and the data showed that perceptions of principals' actions matter. Some variables appear to have greater impact than others, and the specific impact of perceived principal actions was slightly varied between the 3 dependent variable groups of those early career teachers, those who had long-term intentions to remain in teaching, short-term intentions, and those whose intentions were unknown. But regardless, the results clearly demonstrated that yes, teachers' perceptions of principals' actions or lack of actions influenced their intentions to remain in teaching. Here's just one example from the data. Research question 3 was focused on the current year of teaching and asked teachers whether their administrators' behavior towards staff was supportive and encouraging. For this question, favorable responses yielded much stronger long-term intentions, with a nearly 12% difference from those who had a not favorable response. Looking at the short-term intentions, this question yielded a difference of approximately 10%, indicating, again, that this could be an important variable, this time impacting teachers' intentions to leave teaching. There are many implications for this study and the research findings. The implications that I shared in my study were about in 3 areas. 1, the daily work and focus of principals. 2, preparation and training for new principals. And 3, policies and standards governing school principals. So yes, indeed, principals represent a hopeful remedy to interrupting the cycle of teacher burnout, attrition, shortages, and negative student impacts. I hope that this has been insightful and that this research might help principals interrupt that cycle and take us on a better path forward. Thank you again.